to another episode of Federico Talks Watches. And as you can see, I'm joined by Tim Masso today.
Doubly Talking Watches. Good to be here, Fed.
It's been a little while since we did a Double Trouble feature.
Yeah, and for once it's not measured in hours.
There we go. And I wanted to play a little game. We play games on my segments sometimes, and I did this on my old channel, but now that I have a very interesting horological guest with me today, I figured we'd play again.
Okay.
We're going to talk guilty pleasure watches. Watches that we like, that maybe we shouldn't, or are, a guilty pleasure in some way or another.
We like it, but it just violates our ethics as collectors. Like, we like it, but we know we shouldn't.
Exactly. And, of course, before we get started, customary wristwatch check. Today, I'm wearing my Wave Dial Omega Seamaster 300, a newer addition to my collection, and boy, a watch I really never appreciated, but that I am truly in love with right now.
Palm check. I'm wearing my 37mm stainless steel Master Moon. It's a gorgeous little watch, part of the late 90s series of black dialed Masters. To me, this is pretty close to perfect.
It actually is. I really love that, even more so than the re-edition from, 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, honestly, the current 39mm is nice, and with a meteorite dial, it's quite nice. But for me, I mean, this is just a great combination of metal and dial, complication and size. Like, it really does not get any better.
And it's quintessentially JLC.
Yeah, they've been doing a calendar wristwatch every year since the 1930s. So, yeah, I mean, they've got the Memovox, they've got the Reverso, but this is kind of a connoisseur's tradition of JLC, something they've always done well.
Alrighty, and on that note, Tim, do you want to get started, or shall I get started?
Yeah, let me talk about something JLC did not do well. Okay, during the mid to late 1980s. Now I've got two guilty pleasures here. I'm going to lead with my biggest gun. The 1989 Grand Reveil, inheriting some of the styling from the Odysseus series. Believe it or not, the Odysseus was a step up from the Lyre. And okay, so the idea was during the 80s, more is more, and this watch gave you the most. So let's see what we've got. We've got a busy dial.
Yes, we do.
In lacquer, though. We've got a complication that, frankly, is just a little bit too complex for the case and the dial. We've got a perpetual calendar on top of an alarm. And because we have both of those, we have an extra setting crown on the fluted bezel, which is seamlessly integrated into the fluted lugs. This thing looks like a Baroque potato with eyes.
It really is a child of excess, straight from the 80s.
Yeah, like if you ever thought that a case side dimple corrector on a watch was just a little bit too much detail, breaking up the lines of the case, well, get ready for an entire screw down crown with a crown shoulder. JLC went all the way with the Kurt Claus perpetual module. Instead of having everything adjusted through the crown like an IWC, they said, let's go with a case side pusher, but to use the pusher, let's have a screw down crown that you have to screw out before you can push it.
And I have to be honest with you, I saw the picture you sent me earlier. This is an ugly watch.
Yeah, this is a very ugly watch.
But ugly in a heartwarming way. I mean, I thought, wow, that's ugly, but I kind of like that.
Yeah, as you know, I've owned pugs for about 2 decades now, so this is just kind of my taste in things. It's a watch that, because it is so excessive, it kind of appeals to me. I don't want to say it's like the LM002 of watches, the Lamborghini Rambo Lambo, because somehow that thing seems spiritually linked to Hublot. But they were of the same time period, the late 1980s. It was just a period when more was more, and in an era when more was more, this was the absolute most. I regret to say I absolutely love this stupid thing.
And why don't you tell the audience the kicker? It's platinum.
Oh yeah, I forgot. The whole thing's the chunk of platinum. This is pre-display case back too, so you've got a platinum case back that weighs about 1.5 ounces. So the watch feels like an absolute tank despite being about 39-40 millimeters. So it's ugly, it's big, it's busy, it's overcomplicated, it's 80s, and it's dated, and it's platinum, but I love it.
Oh man, and actually, the watch I'm going to mention now is on the other side of the spectrum.
Okay.
Not in that it isn't too much. It's a very loud watch, because you guys know I love loud watches, but it's the opposite of complex.
Okay.
And the opposite of what JLC normally does, and probably one of the reasons that I consider it a guilty pleasure.
Okay.
And we're talking the 45 millimeter older style Corum Bubbles with the crazy dials, like the Bomber or the Joker.
Or multiple Satans.
Exactly. And we're talking an ETA-based caliber in a 45 millimeter case with an integrated strap, a bubble sapphire, which is... I mean, that watch is easily, I haven't looked it up, but 16, 17, 18 millimeters thick.
It is, and about like 13, 14 millimeters of that is the sapphire.
Exactly, and it looks, realistically, like a $40 mall watch.
Yeah, honestly, it's funny because it looks like a $40 mall watch, but the look that they were trying to achieve was actually the look of the Rolex Deep Sea Special from the 1950s.
Yeah,
they were trying to create that.
And guys, I'm going to put up a picture of that because this isn't the Cameron edition you may be thinking of. Rolex did make this one or few off pieces back
the
in
Deep Sea
50s.
Challenge is the modern one. The Deep Sea Special was the one with like the moon-sized sapphire on
Exactly. And there's something about it. I mean, I'm more aesthetically driven than maybe movement driven, but I do love my movements. And this is very, very simple. At the time, they were quite expensive.
Yeah.
It wasn't a serious collector's watch. It was quite the opposite, actually. It was the guy who had way too much money and didn't know what to spend it on type of watch.
It wasn't a junk watch either, and I think I said giant sapphire on the Rolex Vintage. I mean a giant acrylic. But on the Bubble, the thing was Severin Wunderman, who owned Corum, designed this himself. So it was really kind of a top-down order to the watchmakers: make this happen. Here's my design.
Exactly, and it is a well-made watch.
Yes.
But it breaks free of all the conventions that we kind of love of traditional Swiss watchmaking.
Yeah, and that background story, just the capriciousness of it, makes the watch more enjoyable and a better fit for this theme.
And some of the questionable partnerships as well. Like, did you know the winner of the World Series of Poker used to receive the Corum Bubble as a prize?
This I did not know. This is news to me.
Hence why they made the Royal Flush watch.
Okay.
It's a little too much, even for me. I'm sure you guys would agree.
But yeah, I mean, I guess it's almost like wearing a snow globe on your wrist.
Yeah, but it's a guilty pleasure.
Yeah, exactly. But like you said, it's a real watch. It's powered by a real Swiss mechanical movement. It's built by a watchmaker. That sapphire cost a fortune to make. It's a real luxury watch.
It is, and nowadays I think they're trading between $2,000 and $3,000. So I might actually be able to scratch that itch at some point.
Fair enough. And there is some complication. You can get a diver. You can get a GMT.
Yes, you can. You can get a chronograph,
That's a fact.
and they even made a skeletonized one. Believe it or not.
I think they've made one. They've made a skeletonized one recently.
Well, I know it's in their line, but I have to look that up. Maybe it is just a recent thing. Well, now there's even a recent version in bronze.
I think there's a 15th anniversary series that came out in 2015 where you can get anything from a paste symbol, like musical symbol style dial, to the skeleton. It's a wacky watch. They're wacky variants of the wacky watch.
Well, let's move on to something that hopefully is a little bit more tasteful than my pick, but I'm not sure about that. What do you have, Tim?
No, okay, we're going back in time once more. From the same mind that spawned that Grand Revive back in 1989. Turn the clock back one more year to the 1988 Odysseus catalog. The Odysseus line was, I don't want to say genetically defective, but genetically bizarre. This is as 80s as it gets. If two-tone was 80s, how do you describe a fusion of tantalum and rose gold? Not both metals on the watch. Both metals fused, actually melded together into a single case. So,
what was the purpose of that?
To look cool.
All right, I like that.
I mean, back when stainless steel and yellow gold looked cool, tantalum and rose gold must have been awesome.
Hey, buddy, I still think stainless steel and yellow gold looks cool.
And I still think this watch looks awesome. On top of everything else, if you're not offended sufficiently by the style with those fluted lugs and the fluted bezel and the two-tone, I hope you like the fact that it's a mecha quartz and it's really small.
Oh my god, that might be the most offensive. Not that I hate mecha quartz, but JLC mecha quartz.
Yeah. Caliber 630. It's got a moon phase, and it's got a mechanical chronograph on top of a quartz caliber from JLC. It's a manufactured movement.
It is. Is it the same mecha quartz that IWC kind of use in their pilot's watch?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that makes sense.
25 joule, watchmaker made, watchmaker regulated, watchmaker serviceable. But again, guys, it's got a quartz heart, and the combination of the quartz and the mechanical chronograph to some is going to be worse than just a quartz watch. It's like a sacrilege melding those two.
Oh man, that I'd love to see you own one. It's hard to find. I'd love to see you own one.
Let me tell you guys, you're gonna be hard pressed to find pictures of this on the internet. I once passed on one on eBay for $5,000, and I will always regret it. But believe me, it's hard to make my case for a 34.5 millimeter two-tone 80s quartz watch, and yet it's captured my heart.
Oh, fair enough. And actually, I'm gonna go into something that arguably I think is very elegant.
Okay.
But the guilty pleasure aspect of it, we'll get into it in a second. And the watch I'm going to talk about is the Van Cleef & Arpels, not a brand we talk about very often.
Poetry of time, people.
Van Cleef & Arpels, the Pierre Arpels collection. Their entry-level, time-only watch with that kind of funky single pivot lug. You know what I'm talking about, Tim?
Yeah, pivoted lugs, whether they're IWC, Van Cleef & Arpels, I do not care. They are the most polarizing design feature in all of watchmaking.
Exactly. Now, the reason it's a guilty pleasure, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe you can talk me into it, is one, the price is high for what you got. It's a beautiful watch, but it's once again, it's at a base caliber.
Yeah.
No big deal, but it's not modified in any significant manner. And it's not the most masculine design.
Okay.
I love it because of the European sophistication that in my mind it brings to the table.
Okay.
And I would love to see myself in the 1960s, kind of dressed like a Gianni Agnelli, this Italian playboy, with this beautiful style watch, which I know very well today. In 2017, with my style, I will never be able to pull this off.
Well, the good news is Gianni Agnelli is dead, so at least you don't have to worry about him pulling ahead again. If you run long enough, you may catch up.
Well, not at this pace, I'll tell you that.
They didn't call him the rake of the Riviera for nothing, but yeah, he did sort of establish the standard. He could pull off a 33 millimeter Patek Philippe complication with panache.
And on top of his cuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just one of those watches. It's a guilty pleasure because I'd love to have one, but I know in all seriousness I'll never really be able to pull it off.
The other problem, I don't know if you couldn't pull it off, but the watch has a lot stacked against it. First, horologically, it's not sophisticated.
No.
So a lot of people are going to discount it just out of hand. But then, when you're dealing with that neither world of the watch brand that's better known as a jeweler, you look at how the likes of Cartier and Tiffany and even Chopard and Corum and Piaget have struggled with managing that dual identity. And then you get to Van Cleef & Arpels, which is kind of a neophyte in the world of watchmaking.
Very much so.
You could see how the deck is stacked against like century-old brands that have been doing the watch thing for decades now. And it's just tough for Van Cleef to overcome that.
You're right, and actually, that's like the one thing that doesn't bother me. I'm sure you guys know, and Tim, you know, I started my career at Cartier.
Yeah.
So I have an appreciation. I think these dual identity brands, they're just specialists in case making and attention to detail. So for me, I can get over that. But yes, there is that as well to add to the many lists of things that make this watch ultimately a guilty pleasure.
On the other hand, it also makes it like my ugly old JLCs, easy to pick up.
That is true. Well, actually, I don't know if they sold very well, so I don't know if it is. I mean, I'm not sure.
Maybe not easy to find, but definitely easy to pick up if you find one.
Well, yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
Once you find one, you'll be able to pick it up, but, finding one is where it's at.
I have the same problem with my crazy Mecha Quartz JLC with the tantalum dial and the tantalum case. I've never even seen one in person, and I've seen everything from JLC.
Yeah, that is true. And actually, What is your third watch on this list?
My third watch might be the most normal watch between the two of us in this entire feature, and it's the 2004 Amvox R Alarm. If you remember the Amvox one, it was a 42mm watch. There was a bigger limited edition of the watch in titanium and platinum. It was a 44, it had a hobnail central dial, and the one I'm talking of is in titanium. Now, it's 44 with a rather large case size and a big lug span, which means it's too big for me. And it is about as colorful as a modern JLC gets, with a green that is a little too bright to be called British racing green, honestly.
It is, and you love this. I mean, we've been working together 2 months now.
Yeah.
You are obsessed with this tone of green. You love it. It's your thing.
You know it. It is my thing. It's near and dear to my heart, even though it sits on my head. And this watch also has a little shock of yellow around the center dial.
Yeah,
so
a little extra pop.
It's like the JLC Lemon Lime. And believe me, 500 of them out there. It's passed my desk several times here. I'm always tempted. And it's weird, right down to the strap, which is Bridge of Weir leather embossed to look like a carbon fiber weave. Just horrible taste, but I can't get over it. It's green.
Do you know what I'm getting a chuckle out of? Is that even when we're talking guilty pleasures,
Yes.
you stuck to JLC.
Well,
it's JLC all the way.
I thought I should, because people say, oh, Tim, you're just crazy about JLC. But I wanted to say something that was like half-heartedly critical, just because, obviously all these watches are either too big or ugly. So they don't get it all right. But it's like that pug. Like I said, I've had them for 20 years. They've never looked ugly to me. Maybe that's the problem lies in me. But I love an ugly dog, and I love an ugly watch.
Well, that's how you know you're a true fan of the brand, when you appreciate all of their work.
Exactly. I appreciate all of their work, and at the same time, I appreciate there's probably one or two things wrong with me. So we need to laugh at ourselves, and I'll have other guilty pleasures in a future installment of this. So
yeah, this is going to be a running series. And actually, on that note, is a watch that I've discussed with Tim, and we don't exactly know how to show you on the program.
Oh, boy. Okay.
So we won't. You guys are going to have to Google it for yourselves.
Yes.
But it's the Sven Anderson, his erotic line of watches, which are...
Which, if you go to Baselworld, it's like half of his booth.
True.
I've got photos from Baselworld last year from the AHCI area that I can't even use. This is like his favorite thing.
It's a little risque, but essentially it's beautiful enamel dials of people, committing sexual acts on them. And to me, I just find that so cool that such a serious art like watchmaking would incorporate something like that.
You think of like these Swiss guys in like cottages snowed under 4 feet of snow in like the 1700s. They've got infinite time on their hands and infinite imagination. They're like, hey, you know what I'm gonna do? I mean, these old like erotic automata watches, they go back to like 18th century pocket watches.
They do. And actually, even nowadays, Sven Anderson isn't the only one to do it. I think Blancpain does it. Ulysse Nardin does it.
Yeah, I couldn't even bring back my video for like IW Magazine. I couldn't bring back my video of last year's Baselworld 2016 Blancpain booth because they had so much material dedicated to this. I literally couldn't get anything in the frame without also getting that.
Well, it looks like Sven Anderson kind of built a brand around it, though. Like, that is what he's known for.
True.
Isn't it?
If you're going to do one thing, do it well, I guess.
And yeah, I mean, it's a guilty pleasure. It's something that I'd be embarrassed to wear in front of my mother, but it's something that if I was able to build, a crazy collection down the line, that I'd want to include, just because it's so darn different.
By the way, if pictures of that watch those watches are popping up unredacted, Fed's gonna hear it from me. These things better be blocked off.
Not safe, by the way, guys, not safe for work if you're gonna do the Googling.
Yeah, exactly. Block off your screen or have like that minimize key ready.
Yeah, so I mean that's definitely a guilty pleasure, but I'm really impressed, Tim. I like some of your picks. I totally wear that Odysseus. I mean, absolutely.
That's a cool watch. Honestly, if you can get past the fact that it's small and quartz and two-tone and 80s, everything else about it's great.
Oh, absolutely. And on that note, guys, please let us know, what are your orological guilty pleasures? Leave a comment in the comment section below. And of course, take a look at the description of this video for two very important things. The first one is Talking Hands are back.
Yes, the watch you want watch reviews, literally www are. Watch You Want wrist reviews, Watch You Want watch reviews. Search any of those, it'll come up. Fed's tagged it to death. The watch reviews are exactly that. You want to go see the old style videos that I made? They're back in force. You want to see reviews of the best stuff we've got? That's where they are. That is the exclusive channel for our old style showcase videos made new daily for you.
Exactly. And it's linked in the description so you don't even have to search. And the second thing is, check out our Instagram. That's @WatchYouWant for a daily bite-sized piece of orological content if you don't have enough time to watch a video. And why don't you follow us on there? We really need to grow that account. I'd really appreciate it personally.
Yeah, and remember, Fed tapes his shows, but he's always talking watches on Instagram. That's where you can catch him live and interact in real time in the comments threads.
24/7. And on that note, guys, thank you, Tim, for joining me for orological guilty pleasures, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you, and take care.
And thanks for logging on.
There you go.